Welcome to Her True Stories, where every tale weaves strength from silence, where the deepest betrayals forge the fiercest comebacks. If you're ready for a journey through heartbreak, deception, and a redemption that'll make your heart soar, hit that subscribe button and drop your city in the comments. I'm Clara Bennett, 58 years old, a widow from Charleston, South Carolina. With hands calloused from tending roses and a heart scarred by the family I trusted, this is my story of outsmarting my stepson, Daniel, and his scheming wife, Elise, who stole my inheritance, Rosewood Manor, and a $150,000. Trust thinking they could bury me in a nursing home while they cashed in on my home. But I rose from their ashes, built a haven for women like me, and proved that life after 50 is where you claim your power. Don't miss a moment of this silent uprising because, honey, the twists in this tale will leave you speechless. My name is Clara Bennett, and at 58, I sit in the rose garden of Rosewood Manor, the air heavy with the scent of magnolias and the soft hum of cicadas, just like it was when I first fell in love with this place. The manor, with its white columns and wraparound porch, has stood since the 1800s. A Georgian beauty in Charleston's heart, its faded grandeur a testament to the Bennett family's legacy. I met Thomas Bennett at 30, a kind-hearted architect with graying temples and a laugh that could warm the coldest nights. His deep voice recited poetry as we danced in the parlor, his arms my safe haven after a life of scraping by waitressing in my 20s. Nursing school part-time, always chasing stability. We married after a whirlwind courtship, blending our lives with his son, Daniel, a quiet 10-year-old from his first marriage who'd cling to my skirts, his brown eyes wide with trust. I thought I'd found my forever Sunday brunches with shrimp and grits, summers picking figs in the orchard, winters by the fireplace with jazz records spinning. Rosewood was our sanctuary, its creaking floors and ancestral portraits holding our laughter, our dreams. But dreams have a way of cracking. Thomas died 5 years ago, a heart attack that stole him in the night, leaving me at 53 with a silence that filled the manor like fog. The walls seemed to mourn with me, their paint peeling like tears. Thomas's will, signed in his shaky hand, left me Rosewood and a $150,000 trust modest for the estate's history, but enough to keep me secure. Daniel, then 30, was furious. A lawyer with a sharp jaw and sharper ambition, he'd expected the manor outright. His dark hair slicked back, his tailored suits screaming privilege. His wife, Elise, 27 at the time, was a social climber with platinum blonde hair and a smile that never reached her eyes, her manicured nails tapping like a predator's claws at every family dinner. They moved into Rosewood after Thomas's death, claiming they were helping me grieve, but their footsteps echoed like invaders in my home. I cooked gumbo in the kitchen, the spice of cayenne and okra rising like a prayer for peace. But their whispers grew colder, their glances sharper, and I began to feel like a ghost in my own life. It was a humid July evening in 2020, the jasmine blooming so thick it clung to the air when I overheard the truth. I was carrying a tray of sweet tea to the study, the ice clinking softly, my bare feet cool against the hardwood. The door was ajar and Daniel's voice sliced through the stillness like a knife. "That old hag's trust is ours once she's gone," he sneered, his tone dripping with venom. "Elise, push her into that nursing home, say it's for her health. We'll sell Rosewood and split the profits." Elise's laugh was like breaking glass, sharp and cruel. "She's too fat to fight back, darling. Let's make it quick." My hands shook, the tray tilting, tea spilling onto the floor as I backed away, my heart pounding like a drum in the quiet night. The words cut deeper than the elitist taunts I'd endured from Charleston's high society, who'd praised my charity work fundraisers for the local orphanage while whispering plump heiress behind my back at galas, their silk dresses swishing as they mocked my curves. I retreated to my room, Thomas's portrait above my bed, watching silently, his kind eyes a stark contrast to the betrayal I'd heard. I didn't confront them. Not yet. My years as a volunteer nurse had taught me to stay calm under pressure, to watch and wait. I played the part of the grieving widow, my warm brown eyes hiding the storm within. Daniel and Elise hired a caregiver, Margaret, a stern woman in her 50s with a clipboard and a cold stare, who followed me like a shadow, suggesting I was frail at 53. "Mrs. Bennet, you look tired, perhaps. A rest home," she'd say, her voice syrupy with fake concern. I smiled, nodding, but my mind was racing. At night, I'd slip into the attic, the air thick with dust and memories, the wooden stairs creaking under my weight. There, amid old trunks and yellowed letters, I found Thomas's ledger's handwritten notes revealing a secret account worth $200,000, hidden from Daniel to protect me. My heart swelled with love for Thomas, his foresight a lifeline. With trembling hands, I contacted Mr. Hargrove, a wiry lawyer in his 60s with a gravelly voice and a knack for discretion. "Clara, we'll move this to a new identity," he said, setting up an account under Clara May in the Cayman Islands. I memorized escape routes through Rosewood's sprawling grounds, pruning the rose garden under moonlight, the thorns pricking my fingers as I planned my exit. If you're watching this, and you've ever felt the sting of betrayal from those you called family, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, what's the worst thing someone close to you has done? Because, honey, what Daniel and Elise did, by August 2021, I was ready. I staged my disappearance, leaving a note on my pillow. "Thanks for the truth." I packed a suitcase, a photo of Thomas and me at 30 laughing by the river, and my grandmother's pearl necklace, its weighted tethered to my past. I took a Greyhound bus to Savannah, Georgia, the hum of the engine lulling me into a strange peace as the low country blurred past. In Savannah, I rented a room in a weathered boarding house from Mrs. Jenkins, a 65-year-old widow with kind eyes and a southern drawl, the walls peeling but warm with stories. "You've got a story, don't you?" she asked, handing me keys with a knowing smile. I nodded, calling myself Clara May, my past a shadow I carried like a second skin. The room smelled of old wood and lavender, a stark contrast to Rosewood's grandeur. And for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of freedom, like a rose breaking through cracked soil. I volunteered at Hope Haven, a women's shelter in Savannah's historic district, where I met Dr. Naomi Carter, a 50-year-old doctor with tired but fierce eyes, her hands steady as she stitched wounds of women fleeing violence. I organized supplies, sorting donated clothes, finding purpose amid the chaos of crying mothers and restless children. One day I met 9-year-old Mia, a shy girl with braids and dark eyes, whose mother had escaped an abusive husband. Mia's quiet strength melted my defenses, her small hand in mine a lifeline. We'd sit on the shelter's porch, her sketching flowers while I told stories of Charleston's hidden gardens, her laughter a balm to my scars. "Miss Clara, you're like a mama bear," she said once, her smile bright. I hugged her, tears stinging my eyes, wondering if I could ever be that strong. Then came the first twist, the kind that makes your heart skip. In October 2021, a letter arrived at the boarding house. No return address. Just my name, Clara May, scrawled in black ink. Inside was a single line. "They're not done with you. Check the manna's title." My hand shook as I read it again. The title. Rosewood was mine, wasn't it? I called Mr. Hargrove, who dug into the records. What he found hit like a punch. Daniel had forged documents claiming I'd signed over Rosewood's deed to him before I left. They'd sold it for $3 million, the funds already in an account I couldn't trace. Fury burned through me, but so did fear. Who sent that letter? Someone knew where I was, knew my new name. Was I safe? I didn't tell Mrs. Jenkins or Naomi, but I watched my back, checking locks twice, avoiding dark streets. At Hope Haven, I threw myself into work, but Mia noticed my tension. "You okay, Miss Clara?" she asked, holding up a drawing of a rose with thorns. I forced a smile, tucking her sketch into my pocket. That night, I called Jack, a private investigator recommended by Hargrove, a grizzled ex-cop with a limp and a sharp mind. "Find out who's behind this," I said, sending him the letter. He grunted. "Someone's playing games. I'll dig." Jack's report came a month later, and it was a bombshell. The letter was from Aunt Lillian, Thomas's sister, a reclusive 70-year-old who'd lived in Atlanta since Thomas's death. She'd known Daniel's plans but stayed silent, guilt eating her alive. "She's trying to make amends," Jack said, sliding me her number. I called Lillian, my voice trembling with anger. "Why didn't you warn me?" I demanded. Her voice was frail, tearful. "I was scared, Clara. Daniel threatened to cut me off. But I saw the sale papers he's working with a developer, Victor Grayson, a big shot in Charleston. They've got plans for luxury towers, and Rosewood's land is prime." She paused, her breath hitching. "There's more. Elise isn't just his wife, she's Grayson's cousin. They've been playing you from the start." My knees buckled and I sank onto the bed, the pearl necklace around my neck suddenly heavy. Elise, related to the developer? The dinners, the fake concern, her jabs about my waitit was all a setup. A long con to strip me of everything. The letter from Lillian wasn't the only shock. She mailed me a note Thomas had written, found in his old files, and when it arrived, I read it under the dim light of my bedside lamp, tears blurring the page. "Clara, my love." He'd written, "If anything happens to me, watch Daniel. His heart's grown cold, and I fear he'll hurt you." My Thomas, even in his final days, had seen the truth I'd missed. I clutched the letter, his familiar scrawl a lifeline, and vowed to save Rosewood, not just for me, but for him. If you've ever uncovered a secret that turned your world upside down, share your story in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Because, ladies, what I found next made me realize this betrayal ran deeper than I ever imagined. I told Jack to dig into Victor Grayson. His report came fast, and it was chilling. Grayson wasn't just a developer, he was tied to a shady network of land grabs across the South. Buying historic properties cheap, often through fraud, and flipping them for millions. Elise's connection explained everything. Her charm, her push to move me out, the forged deed. But there was another twist. Jack found a photo of Grayson and Elise at a gala. And standing beside them was Margaret, the caregiver who'd watched my every move. She wasn't just a hired hand. She was Grayson's sister-in-law, planted to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind. My blood boiled, remembering her cold eyes, her clipboard, her suggestions of dementia. They'd played me like a pawn, but I wasn't down yet. I threw myself into Hope Haven, needing the work to keep me grounded. Mia became my anchor, her drawings a reminder of why I fought. One afternoon, as we painted flower pots on the shelter's porch, she handed me a drawing of a rose with thorns, labeled Miss Clara, the Brave. "You're like a superhero," she said, her dark eyes shining. I hugged her, my heart swelling, but fear lingered. If Grayson's network was this deep, was I safe in Savannah? Was Mia? I started locking my door at night, keeping Thomas's letter under my pillow, its words a shield against the darkness. Then came a call that changed everything. It was November 2021, and I was stacking blankets at Hope Haven when my burner phone rang. Only Jack had the number. "Clara, you've got trouble," he said, his voice low. "Grayson's men are sniffing around Savannah. Someone tipped them off about Clara May." My heart stopped. How did they know my alias? I thought of Lillian's cousin she'd talked. I confronted Lillian, my voice shaking with fury. "Who did you tell?" She sobbed, confessing she'd mentioned my alias to a family friend who worked for Grayson. "I didn't know, Clara. I'm so sorry." I hung up, distrust settling like a stone in my chest. I needed a plan, fast. With Mr. Hargrove's help, I moved my Cayman funds to a new account, untraceable. I told Naomi part of the truth. She deserved to know why I was jumpy. Her fierce eyes softened. "Clara, you're not alone. We protect our own here." She introduced me to Sarah, a 45-year-old lawyer at the shelter who'd escaped an abusive marriage. Sarah offered to dig into Grayson's deals pro bono. "If they're forging deeds, there's a paper trail," she said, her voice steady. Together, we built a case, meeting in secret at a diner. Poring over documents, Jack sent bank transfers, emails, even a recording of Elise bragging about taking the old cow down. But the next twist hit like a hurricane. In December, Jack called with news. Daniel wasn't Thomas's biological son. A DNA test, buried in Thomas's files, showed Daniel was born from an affair during Thomas's first marriage. Thomas had raised him as his own, but Daniel didn't know. Was this why Thomas protected me in the will? Did Lillian know? I confronted her again, driving to Atlanta in a borrowed car, my hands gripping the wheel. Her small apartment smelled of mothballs, her face pale as she opened the door. "Did you know about Daniel?" I demanded. She nodded, tears spilling. "Thomas told me years ago, Clara. He loved Daniel, but he saw his anger, his greed. He wanted you safe." My mind reeled. Daniel's betrayal wasn't just greed, was rooted in a lie he didn't even know. I decided to fight back. Not just for me, but for Thomas's legacy. Sarah found a loophole in the deed Sal Grayson's company hadn't filed it properly, leaving a window to challenge it. I returned to Charleston under cover of night, staying with a friend from my charity days, Ellen. A 60-year-old librarian with a sharp mind and a spare room. Ellen helped me access court records, and we found proof. Elise had forged my signature. But the notary was a known associate of Grayson's. A man named Paul. We had them. If you've ever had to fight for what's yours against all odds, share your story in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Because, ladies, the battle for Rosewood was about to take a turn I never saw coming. Ellen's spare room smelled of old books and cedar. A safe haven as I planned my next move. Sarah arranged a meeting with a judge, Ms. Evelyn Harper, a 62-year-old woman with silver hair and a no-nonsense stare, known for her fairness in Charleston's courts. We met in a quiet cafe, her sharp eyes scanning my evidence-forged signatures, notary records, bank transfers. "This is solid, Clara," she said, sipping coffee. "But Grayson's got deep pockets and deeper connections. Be ready for a fight." I nodded, my hands steady despite the fear. Back at Ellen's, I pored over Thomas's letter again. His words, "Watch Daniel," burning in my mind. Why hadn't he told me about Daniel's origins? Was he protecting me or Daniel? Then came a twist that cut like a thorn. Jack called, his voice grim. "Clara, there's a problem. Rosewood's title has a line $500,000 tied to a loan Thomas never told you about. A loan. My Thomas, meticulous with finances, borrowing in secret." Jack dug deeper and found the loan was through Grayson's company, signed just before Thomas's death. My stomach churned. Had Thomas been coerced? I searched the attic files Ellen had helped me retrieve from a storage unit, all boxes I'd stashed before leaving. There, in a locked diary, I found Thomas's final entry. "Grayson's pressuring me. Says he'll expose Daniel's birth if I don't sign. Clara must never know." My breath caught. Thomas had been blackmailed to protect Daniel's secret. Sacrificing Rosewood's future, I confronted Lillian again, my voice shaking with anger. "Did you know about the loan?" She nodded, tears spilling. "Thomas told me Grayson had proof DNA tests, hospital records. He said he'd ruin Daniel's career unless Thomas signed. I begged him to tell you, but he said it'd break your heart." I sank onto her couch, fury and grief warring inside me. Thomas had carried this alone, his love for me a shield that cost him everything. The next twist came fast. Sarah called, frantic. "Clara, Grayson's countersuing. Says you abandoned Rosewood, making the sale legal. And there's a witness, Margaret." My blood ran cold. Margaret was testifying I'd been unstable, claiming I'd agreed to the sale before disappearing. Lies, all lies. But Grayson's money made them dangerous. Sarah pushed for a deposition, but I knew we needed more. I told Jack to tail Margaret, and what he found was chilling. She was living in a penthouse, paid for by Grayson, and meeting with Paul, the notary, who had a history of forging documents for Grayson's deals. I decided to confront Margaret myself, against Jack's warnings. I found her at a Charleston hotel bar, her stern face softened by wine. "Margaret," I said, sliding into the booth, my voice calm but steel. Her eyes widened, but she recovered fast. "Clara, you shouldn't be here." I leaned in, my pearl necklace catching the light. "Tell me why you lied, or I'll make sure Grayson knows you're talking." She paled, her hands shaking. "It wasn't personal, Clara. Grayson paid me. Said you were a threat to his plans." "Plans?" She clammed up, but I'd planted a seed. That night, Jack sent me a recording, Margaret, on the phone with Paul, admitting the forgery, but saying there's more at stake. Rosewood's land has something Grayson wants. Something. My mind raced. Was it just the condos? Or was there a secret buried in Rosewood's grounds? I remembered Thomas's stories of the manor's history, rumors of Civil War artifacts hidden beneath the orchard. Was that what Grayson was after? If you've ever uncovered a secret that turned your fight into a war, share it in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Because, ladies, Rosewood was hiding more than memories. And I was about to walk into a trap. The Charleston sky was bruised with storm clouds as I stood outside Rosewood, its white columns looming like ghosts in the twilight. Margaret's words haunted me. Rosewood's land has something Grayson wants. I spent nights poring over Thomas's diaries, searching for clues. One entry mentioned a family legend, an iron chest buried under the fig orchard, said to hold Confederate gold or documents hidden during the Civil War to keep it from Union soldiers. Thomas had laughed it off as a story. But what if Grayson believed it? Jack dug into Grayson's past deals, finding he'd bought historic sites across the South. I moved to a cheap motel, cash only, my pearl necklace the only thing tying me to my past. Sarah pushed our case forward, filing to nullify the deed sale. But Grayson's countersuit was fierce, with Margaret's lies painting me as unstable. Then came another twist. Mia called, her voice trembling. "Miss Clara, a man came to the shelter asking for you. He had a scar on his face." My blood ran cold. Jack confirmed it was Paul Grayson's fixer. He was hunting me, and now Mia was in his sights. I told Naomi to keep her safe, my heart breaking at the thought of that sweet girl caught in my war. I decided to bait Grayson. With Jack's help, I leaked a story to a local paper. Rosewood Manor hides Civil War treasure. If Grayson was after the chest, he'd make a move. Sure enough, Jack spotted his men at Rosewood digging at night. We tipped off the police, who caught them trespassing, but Grayson's lawyers got them out fast. Still, it bought us time. Sarah used the incident to strengthen our case, arguing Grayson's illegal actions voided the sale. But the hardest twist came from Ellen. She found a letter in Thomas's storage unit addressed to me, never sent. "Clara, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Daniel's turned on you. The chest is real, but it's not Goldide's proof of a scandal. Papers tying Grayson's family to war crimes. Destroy them if you must." My mind reeled. Thomas had known about the chest, kept it secret to protect me from Grayson's wrath. Was this why he'd been blackmailed? If you've ever held a secret that could ruin everything, share it in the comments and hit that subscribe button. Because, ladies, I was about to walk into Grayson's trap, and it would cost me more than I ever imagined. The rain fell in sheets, mirroring the storm in my heart as I clutched Thomas's letter. Its words about a hidden chest of scandalous papers burning in my mind. Thomas had known papers tying Grayson's ancestors to war crimes, a secret worth killing for. I told Jack, who cursed under his breath. "Clara, this is bigger than fraud. Grayson's family name is everything in Charleston. If those papers go public, he's ruined." We needed to find the chest before Grayson did, but Rosewood was under his control, guarded by his men. Sarah suggested a bold move: file an injunction to freeze the property, citing the trespassing incident. It worked, halting Grayson's digging, but it painted a target on my back at midnight. A week later, my burner phone rang, an unknown number. "Clara May," a man's voice hissed. "Stop digging or Mia pays." My heart stopped. It was Paul, the notary with the scar. I called Naomi, who confirmed Mia was safe. But the shelter had been vandalized, windows smashed, a note reading, "Back off." I moved Mia and her mother to a safe house. Paid for my Cayman funds, my hands shaking as I handed Naomi the cash. "Clara, your family now," she said, her fierce eyes steady. But guilt gnawed at me. Had I brought this danger to them? Jack had a plan: infiltrate Rosewood. He knew a groundskeeper, Miguel, a 55-year-old man loyal to Thomas who'd been fired by Grayson. Miguel met us in a diner, his hands calloused like mine, his eyes wary. "There's a tunnel under the orchard," he whispered. "Thomas showed me once, said it led to a cellar." My pulse raced. The chest was there, I knew it. We planned a break-in midnight, when Grayson's guards changed shifts. Sarah protested Clara, "You're 58. Not a spy." But I couldn't wait. Thomas's legacy, my home, was at stake. The night was moonless, the air thick with mist. Miguel led us through the rose garden, thorns snagging my coat as we crawled to a hidden grate. The tunnel smelled of earth and decay, its walls slick with damp. My flashlight shook as we reached a cellar. Its door rusted but intact. Inside was the chest iron, locked heavy with secrets. But as we pried it open, headlights flashed above. "Grayson's men." "Run," Miguel hissed. We grabbed the chest, scrambling back through the tunnel. My heart pounding as boots echoed behind us. We escaped, hiding the chest in Ellen's garage. But the next twist hit hard. The papers inside weren't just about Grayson's ancestors, they named Daniel's biological father. A man tied to Grayson's network. A criminal who'd died in prison. Thomas had kept this to protect Daniel, but Grayson had used it to manipulate him. I confronted Daniel, meeting him at a park, his face gaunt, Elise nowhere in sight. "Did you know?" I asked, showing him the papers. He broke down, sobbing. "I found out last year, Clara. Grayson promised me Rosewood if I helped him. I didn't know about the chest." My heart ached for the boy he'd been, but his betrayal stung too deep. Sarah used the papers to strengthen our case, threatening to expose Grayson's family scandal. He backed off, settling out of court, returning Rosewood's deed. But another twist came. Lillian called, confessing she'd been blackmailed by Grayson too, forced to spy on me. "He threatened my kids," she sobbed. I forgave her, my heart heavy but open. The sun rose over Rosewood, its white columns glowing like a promise kept. I transformed the manor into Hope Haven South, using my Cayman funds to create a sanctuary beds for women fleeing abuse, counselors, legal aid. Mia, now 10 painted murals on the walls, her roses bold with hope. I taught resilience workshops, my hands guiding women through their stories. The Rose Garden, a place to plant their own blooms. In March 2022, I testified in court. My voice steady as I recounted Daniel and Elise's betrayal. The courtroom's oak paneling a stark stage. Mia's drawing of me as a hero with a rose crown was admitted. Her crayons a child's truth. Elise's forged health records claiming my dementia backfired when Naomi exposed the fraud. Her testimony a scalpel cutting through lies. The judge, Ms. Harper, ruled in my favor, granting me Rosewood and a restraining order. Daniel's face crumpled. Elise's tears were crocodile, her manicured hands trembling as she was led away. By June 2022, Hope Haven South was thriving. Mia, now 12, lead art therapy, her brushstrokes bold with hope. Naomi expanded medical outreach, and women found refuge, their laughter filling the halls. In April 2023, Daniel broke and divorced, begged for a job. I hired him as a janitor, his shock a silent victory as he swept floors he once claimed. One night I found a letter from Lillian, confessing she'd known of Daniel's greed but stayed silent, her guilt spilling onto the page in shaky ink. I forgave her in my heart, turning pain into purpose. But the final twist came in October 2025. As I tended the roses, the air cool with autumn's promise, Elise, released on bail, appeared at the gate, her blonde hair damp, her eyes hollow. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but I turned away, my silence louder than her words. Daniel worked quietly, his pride a ghost, and I saw glimmers of the boy he'd been. The papers from the chest were still in the vault, a secret I'd never reveal, a shield for Rosewood's future. The pearls around my neck gleamed, a reminder of Thomas's love, and I smiled, knowing my legacy thrived not in wealth, but in the women I lifted. If you faced betrayal and turned it into strength, subscribe and share your story in the comments. Where are you watching from? Because, ladies, at 58, I learned that life after 50 is when you bloom brightest, thorns and all.